Good morning.
Good morning. This is why you don't have clocks in the house set at different times.
Almost every clock in my house has a different time on it,
I was,
which is why I'm always late.
usually have them set early just as a little mind trick, and I just go by whatever it says. Well, yeah, my computer said one thing and the clock in my kitchen said another. So it was made it interesting. Good morning, Diana.
Good morning.
All right, we are going to jump into day number 2, ladies. And just like day number 1, it's going to be interactive and there's going to be some questions, some activities in here. And we are going to go ahead and if for some reason any of you are watching the replay, or anything like that and have not received your copy of the workbook, let me know and I can get that for you. We are going to have these recordings up. I'm going to get them up this weekend and they'll be up for a week before I take them down. Okay. All right. Sometimes life gets a little crazy. I got an email from PTO yesterday that said, "Oh, tomorrow is the parade of champions for the teachers as they come into school." And I'm like, tomorrow? So somehow I've missed some things at school. And then my daughter was like, "Mom, let's go." And I'm like, okay. So um, I want to welcome you guys. My name is Katie Jordan. I am the founder and creator of Butterfly Tribe Blueprint and also Women Supporting Women, our Facebook group. Today is, I can't believe this time goes so fast together, day number 2 of our Path to Peace. And we're going to start today with a little review of what yesterday was and what we are going to be looking at today, because I want you to walk away with some valuable pieces of information that you go, I didn't know that. I want to try this. I want to do something a little bit different, right? Okay, so I wanted to start today with this quote that I saw this morning, and it was so impactful. Every woman's success should be an inspiration to another. We're strongest when we cheer each other on. And that is from Serena Williams. And that really is how life should be, right? I don't know where in society we got caught up in life is a competition. Women can't support each other. That's how I've felt for a while. And I'm like, you know what? We can change that, right? All right. So yesterday we started into our 3 steps, which is the like mini version of the 90-day program that you're going to have the opportunity to be a part of later today. So the first one that we went through was emotional healing, right? We did some different things to go through that. We talked about it. We kind of visited about what emotions do you go through and the grief cycle, right? The grief cycle is something else sometimes, especially when you don't know that you are in it, right? Okay, so if you joined us yesterday, we went through that 5 stages of grief, right? Denial, anger, bargaining, depression, and acceptance. Everybody is going to be different in that of when they move through those stages of grief or how they move through those stages of grief. Is there only one way to go through this grief cycle? You guys can type that in the chat. Do you think you only go through it once and then you're done as well?
No, and you don't necessarily go through it in order all the time either.
Right.
Sometimes you go from like anger to sadness, then to acceptance, then back to anger, then to bargaining. It's grief is so complex. And I think we tend to be really judgy about the way we grieve. Like, okay, I should be over this. I should snap out of this. And the more you fight those emotions, I think the longer the roller coaster goes on. So it's like learning that radical acceptance of this is just where I'm at. Feel the feelings, let yourself be there so that then you can heal. Just don't live there. Like,
Yep.
stay in these feelings, but you have to let them run their natural course, or they're just gonna keep repeating because your feelings demand to be heard one way or another.
Sometimes they're not so friendly if you keep the, ignoring them.
They get ugly. They get ugly when you don't listen to them.
Isn't that for sure? Yes, Diana, that is huge. This, I'm just going to be honest with you guys. Right now, this morning, if I get emotional right now, I do. But this morning at the little school parade thing, I found myself almost in tears. And I was like, Katie, this is silly. Why are you about to cry? And it wasn't just that moment in time, right? There were so many other things going on. You know, some of you may know it's been next week. It'll be 4 years since I lost my oldest sister. Um, and tonight, her oldest graduates from high school. And it's such a bittersweet thing because here we are celebrating this with her. And I can't even imagine what it's like to go through this without your mom, you know? Okay, I told you I was probably going to get emotional. Well, it happened.
Oh, Katie. Okay.
You don't
So,
have to apologize.
and Bethany knows because she knew my sister really well as well. And we all, and as little or as much as I know some of you, we have all dealt with grief outside of a relationship, right? And sometimes I think we put ourselves in this box of you only grieve a death, a physical death, when that's not true, right? Going through a divorce is you're grieving multiple things, not just the loss of the relationship. You're grieving what your life used to look like while you're trying to figure out, okay, what is my life going to look like moving forward? Is that easy when you're in the heightened emotion of everything? No. And now it makes me laugh because I'm like, why are we expected to make some big life altering decisions when you're in the midst of all the turmoil? Right? Thank God you can go back and kind of fix some of those. So, like we've talked about, feel those feelings and let them go. Um, I have an almost 3 hour drive ahead of me today, and I'm like, okay, if I need to cry during that drive, I'm going to cry. If I don't need to cry during that drive, I'm not going to. But it is acknowledging them, those emotions and feelings, and letting them go. Doesn't that sound so easy and so nice? Right? So we went through those 7 steps yesterday, affirming and validating those emotions. And then we moved on to seeking support. And I also have a group of women who meet on Monday nights, and that's like a little, we call it celebrating and supporting, because sometimes when you feel like you're in things alone, all you want is somebody there that is not going to judge you, is not going to say what you're feeling or how you're approaching this is wrong, right? You just want somebody to listen. And then the next portion that we went through was the self-care practices. We talked about your mindset and meditation. And then we went on to clarity, which was the second step in this. And with clarity, this is where I'm going to ask you guys if you did your homework. And if you didn't, keep that for this weekend too. You know, were you surprised when you started going through that wheel of life and you started looking at things? You know, hey, is this where I want it to be? Probably not. You know, I shared with you guys yesterday that I was very low on a lot of those things the first time I did that practice. And that's okay, because guess what? We all start somewhere. And the biggest part of that is that you guys are starting. Because how many people in life just allow themselves to be stuck and don't move forward at all? There's a lot, right? I don't want any of you to be that. I want you to move forward and flourish in life and do the things you want to do and allow yourself to dream again. Because the last thing you want somebody telling you is, oh, everything's going to be all right. You should be over it by now. You're not me. How can you tell me what I need? Okay, I'll get off that soapbox right now. So how many of you took the time to go back and acknowledge, hey, I may not be where I wanted to be, but I've made progress? A perfect example of this was yesterday, a lady in our Facebook group, she reached out and she was like, I just don't know what to do. It's so overwhelming. How many of you were divorced or in that separation stage and everything in life felt overwhelming, right? I didn't even know what I was going to do tomorrow, let alone try and figure out, you know, a place to live, all these other things. And what I told her was, when you can step back and look at life like a mosaic, right? That's a beautiful picture in the grand scheme of things. But guess what? It took little tiny pieces for that to come together. Okay? So that means taking those little consistent steps, and some days they feel minute by minute, others they feel day by day. But if you are continuing to do those things consistent, you are going to make forward progress. Okay? Now, we are going to come over to the rest of day number 2. And if you have your workbook with you, you can go over to page number, I think it is 8. And I'm just saying that off the top of my head because, yes, woohoo, it is number 8. All right. On page number 8 of your workbook, you are going to see a list of values, okay? So what we're going to do is we're going to go through some of those values, and I'm going to give you, while we are on here, I am going to give you I am also going to give you the time to look at these and kind of see, okay, what are my values? Because values and priorities play a big part in starting to move forward, okay? Now, the first one over here is I'm going to put this in your head now before we go through these, because we're going to come back and you're going to circle 10 of these that are important to you. And then of those 10, you're going to go narrow it down to 5 that would be your top 5 values. Okay. So the first, can't talk. The first one is authenticity. Being true to yourself. Do you value that? Integrity is that second one. Acting with honesty, even when no one's watching, right? Sometimes you're like, oh. The third one, showing compassion. That kindness and empathy towards others. The fourth one is resilience. I would have to say, those of you who are on here with me live today, I know both of you well enough to know you have some resilience in your life because you've been through some things, right? And you were willing, there's some big nods in agreement there. You are willing to show up for yourself still. That shows great resilience. The next one is gratitude. Whew, that one is hard sometimes when you're in the midst of all the yuck. But if you take the time to step back, there is always something to be grateful for. Okay? Oh my gosh, I went kind of funky there. Number 6 is empathy, understanding and sharing the feelings of others. I know some people, we did this at work. We did what are your greatest strengths? I tend to, which will shock you, not really. I tend to have a higher empathy than some other people, which they're like, nope, that's not me. The 7th one is courage, facing fears and taking action. You know, it's fun to process through all of these and know you ladies a little bit and be like, I can see all of these in all of you. But the fact is, what makes it important to you? Okay. Number 7 is courage. 8 is creativity, expressing originality despite the uncertainty. Number 9, justice, fairness, and equality in treatment. As you can tell, I'm not reading word for word out of here. Number 10 is wisdom, applying knowledge. Number 11 is love, affection, care, and that deep emotional connection. 12 is freedom. 13 is humility. 14 is perseverance, persistence, and determination. Generosity, willingness to give and share. Optimism, right? Having that positive outlook on life. I always thought I was a positive person until I really started to look at myself. And I'm like, that may appear this way on the outside, but on the inside, does that match the same? And that was a totally different shift in things when I realized, that was not what I thought it was. Number 17, responsibility. Number 18, simplicity. Some people don't need all the fancy, blingy, shiny things in life to be happy. What do you value there? 19 is curiosity and 20 is connection. I will tell you guys right now, this one for me, connection, building those meaningful relationships and fostering a sense of belonging is huge, because this also goes in hand in hand with what my love language is. And my love language is quality time. I know, it's kind of a little shocking. Right? So let's just take a minute or two, and hopefully you were kind of thinking about those as we read through them. And if you feel a little overwhelmed by the time crunch, do not feel like you have to do this right now. Okay? So You're just taking of the 20, you're narrowing it down to 10. And then from there, you're starring the ones that you feel strongest connected to. Okay. So I'm going to give you just a second to do that as I get ready to.
Katie, since I didn't get my workbook because of email issues, could you share your screen?
I
So I
can.
can-
And I was going to drop that link. You know what? While you guys are doing that, I will also drop that link back in Bethany in the chat.
Thank you.
You're welcome. I don't know why, or I might just send it to you directly too.
We've
know
been
what?
having email issues, like internet issues, so it might be on my own.
Well, I started, you guys, I moved to a new, I went to a new work email that is attached to my Butterfly Tribe Blueprint. And so I'm still working out a little bit of the kinks there.
Isn't
So,
technology wonderful?
so give me just a second. I'll send that over to you real quick. And then I'll also put it in the chat. You guys get to see all the fun faces I make when I'm doing things too.
I gotta stick your tongue out just right.
Yeah. I was like, It just lets you guys know I'm human too.
And then star the ones that are applied to us now.
Star your top 5, which the ones that you are strongest connected to.
Oh, okay, gotcha.
So it's just giving you a little more narrow view of. Oh my gosh, it helps when you go in the right. Okay, Bethany, you will be getting that shortly.
Perfect. Thank
You're welcome. I'm sorry that took such a little bit to get.
No problem. I have technology issues all the time, so I 100% understand.
All right. So you should have that now. All right, we're gonna jump. Yay! It's also going to be over there in the comments as well. So what we're going to do now is we are going to kind of move forward. But if anybody feels compelled to or wants to share what one of your top values is, you can type it in the chat. You can come off of mute, whichever way you want to do that.
You just want one or?
You can give one or two, whatever you are comfortable doing.
Okay. I'll type mine in.
Okay. Well, that's good because then we can see it. And so you guys, this is kind of a fun exercise just to remind yourself of, because sometimes I look and I'm like, what do I value in life? And then I go back and it reminds me almost instantaneously, oh, it's this, this, and this. And, you know, that's where I'm at. So,
So looking at this, my knee reaction was to say connection, but
mhm.
actually looking at it further, my number one is responsibility because that's something big with me in relationships. It's really important for me to have accountability for my part of things, but it's also really important that whoever I'm engaging with is also being equally responsible because if I don't feel they're being accountable and having that responsibility, I can't connect with them. So that was
Mhm.
kind of an
So that
interesting
caught you off
realization.
guard.
Yeah, I wasn't expecting that, but yeah, that's a big piece of things. So for me, for being able to connect with them.
Yeah. It's interesting how we think of things in a certain way, and you're like, oh no, it would be this. And then in all reality, it's like, oh no, it's this, you know? So that does make things interesting. Um, all right. So we are going to move on through. So we've done the activity of finding our values and kind of just looking into those because sometimes I'll be honest with you guys, I have not until I have been maybe post 40 in my life really honing down what my values are, not what somebody else says my values should be. What means the most to me, right? Because we can get really good at letting other people tell us what we should value, but not what our heartfelt value is. All right, now we are going to move on to the second part of that, and that is the priorities. Okay. Oh, those are good ones, Diana. So with the priorities, you guys are going to be like, this sounds funny, but it really lets you know where your priorities are. Okay. Now, this one we are not going to have enough time to do on while we are on here together. Okay. But what I have found is if you are trying to figure out where your priorities are, let me just tell you a big portion of that is your time. Okay. Ooh, what? So, what I want you to do, and you'll have to make a note here or go back in the recording and look at this, okay? Because what everybody has, we all have the same amount of time in a week, right? How many hours are in a week? You guys, I have to do the math for this all the time, so it makes me laugh. Type in the chat, how many hours are in a week? And yes, I'm still drinking out of a Christmas mug because it makes me happy. If my math is right, yes, 168 hours in a week. So this is my challenge to you is go back and take your 168 hours. Now, the trick to this is the more honest you are in this practice, the better you're going to understand your priorities. Okay. So if you truly are only sleeping 4 hours a night, write down 4 hours a night. But then I'm staying up another 4 hours on social media. Nobody wants to admit it, but it might be true for some people, right? Now, subtract the time that you spend doing things for your children, work, commuting. I have my full-time job right now. I have 13-hour days just from the time I leave the house to the time I come home. So I had to put that in. But then I'm also getting up earlier than that to do the morning routine. So subtract that out, and where you're going to find now, some people's phones will do this for you and let you know how much time you spend on the screen, right? I don't
Yep.
like to get that report sometimes, right? It pops up weekly or whatever it does, and it says you spent. Okay. Now, where you're seeing big chunks of time, is where your priorities are. If you don't like where your priorities are, guess what? You are the only one that has the opportunity to change that. I'm going to give you guys a little trick in here, or a little tip with this one. If you are notorious for, and I've done this with a client before, and first she was like, Katie, I don't know if I can do that. If you are notorious for spending lots of time on social media, and you're like, oh, look at how much that eats up of my time in 24 hours. And I don't like that. I don't want that to be a priority. Set a timer for what you're willing to allow yourself to do. If that means you get 20 minutes a day and you do that one chunk, then you're done. But you also have to stay committed to yourself. Okay? So we might have to circle back in our group and find out how everybody does with their priorities, right? Seeing where your time goes. And that's where your energy flows, and that shows you some of your priorities. Is it always what you want to see? No, right? Sometimes that happens. And you guys, that's part of the awareness in the growing, is realizing, hey, this is not what I thought it was. This is not what I want it to be. Okay. And that's where accountability and having people in your life that will challenge that is also very important. Okay. Now, knowing your values and priorities can help you know what you will stand for and what you will not. So this leads us into the next page in our workbook, which is kind of a perfect little segue, because we are going to chat about boundaries. I didn't even know what this was really until I probably don't even want to admit to how long ago. But I'm going to give you guys, we're not going to go through this worksheet in depth, okay? But it does give you the definition of a boundary. A boundary is how you are allowing other people to treat you, okay? That's the simple version. Do you like the way you feel after you have an interaction with people sometimes? Sometimes that's yes, sometimes that's no. I am, as you all know, I have admitted to being a recovering people pleaser. And that goes hand in hand with boundaries. So, perfect example of this is a quote that I found from Brene Brown that says, daring to set boundaries is about having the courage to love ourselves even when we risk disappointing others. What? And if you are a people pleaser, that one hit a little different and it might hurt. Because to me, that said, I don't love myself enough to stand up to other people. And I think we have to take time to step back and love ourselves more. Because when we don't, and we don't do the taking care of ourselves, can we help others? Can we show up as a good mom? Can we show up as a good employee? No, we can't. And I'm not telling you that that's easy, but it can happen, right? So this is lovely because from boundaries, we're going to go into self-compassion. Okay. Now, how many of you are like me and may talk to yourself? Yep, right. We might all be guilty of that at some point. One of my coworkers bought me a mug that says, I talk to myself because I need expert advice. I don't know how expert it is, but
I call it a staff meeting.
Thank you.
yeah. How many of you can think of the last time that you were talking to yourself. Was that a positive experience, or was that more on the negative side of things? I can tell you right now, I am not always the kindest person to myself, right? And we tend to talk down to ourselves, but we sure wouldn't talk to anybody else like that, right? So why do we do that to ourselves? Would you say some of the things like, oh my gosh, that was so stupid. How could I have done that? Would you say that to your best friend?
No.
Then why are we so easy and so quick to say it to ourselves? That's the person we have to live with the most, not our best friend. Oh,
We're
right?
always harder on ourselves.
Oh, for sure. And when you start to recognize that, and you guys, this is that example of that child wisdom. My daughter, she is 6 right now, and or 6.5, she told me this morning. Um, she's almost 7. She told me one day, I just was listening to her and she was talking like to herself. And I don't remember exactly where we were at, but when this little 6-year-old tells herself, come on, Amelia, you can do it. Ooh, that just melted my heart. Because why don't we say those type of things to ourselves as we get older? We can do this. It is about that loving yourself. Okay. All right. Now, I want you guys to all, we're going to do, I'm not going to make you close your eyes today, but we are going to think of one positive thing to tell yourself today. Okay. And I want you to repeat that positive thing to yourself at least twice today. All right. Now,
Katie, I have an interesting fact. When you're talking negatively to yourself, it takes 4 positive thoughts to combat every negative thought.
well, then you guys better say it like 10 times. At least I should.
Right? But yeah, I had someone in the mental health profession tell me that it takes 4 positive thoughts to combat a negative thought. So when I'm talking negatively to myself, I try to list like 4 things I'm grateful for, or 4 positive points of my day, or just something, I try to be mindful of that. It's hard.
It is. And have you ever thought, and you guys watch over the next week, you're going to start to recognize that and catch yourself sooner. You're going to be like, oh, and it can even be mid thought. But the cool thing about that is you're starting to see that awareness. And when you're aware of things, you have the opportunity to change that. Man, I'm going to be doing a lot more self talk now. If it takes 4 to every one negative.
Sorry, I just made you have more work.
No, I love it. I love it. And you know what? That's why we come together in these two, because hey, somebody else has something of value to add too. And I'm totally going to call Nicole out too and tell her thank you for joining us. I appreciate you being here as well. You guys, she's my amazing photographer. So in the group, you will get to see pictures when I get to see them. So hopefully within the next couple of weeks, I'll get to share a little peek of those with you. Okay. So, man, now we're going to start talking to ourselves even more. We're giving ourselves permission to talk to ourselves, right? But in that, here is what I'm not giving you permission to do. We have to get rid of, as my mom said growing up, the stinking thinking. Okay? or the stinking talking to yourself. You're allowed to talk to yourself more as long as you are turning that into more positive. Okay. Perfect example of that was, you guys, I used to stand in the mirror. I had this gigantic mirror in my bathroom, and I used to pat my belly and say, oh my gosh, I need to get rid of this. Well, a stark reminder of reality is my 4-year-old at that time came up, patted my belly, and said, Mommy, are you going to get rid of this? I was mortified because in that moment, I realized that I did not have a lot of self-love for my physical body. And I was like, oh, I'm not saying that again. Because guess what? That is the same stomach that that little human grew in and made her appearance from. And she needs to recognize how amazing those things are. And I'm sure all of you can relate in some way or another to how society, I'm glad to see there are changes happening, but we still got a lot of ways to go before we as women can just truly embrace ourselves and love ourselves and love each other, right? Yes, that was a deep sigh, because it's those moments of reality that bring you to, we can do this. It just might take all of us, right? It will take all of us, because none of us can do this alone. All right, we are now going to move in to this last step. And if you guys go back in the table of contents in our workbook, this is our empowerment and confidence section. Okay. Now, with that being said, how many of you would say, I feel like empowerment has kind of become a big buzzword in the last couple of years? Does anybody else feel like that?
Yes.
Yeah. Is it just a buzzword, or is there some truth to it? I have my own thoughts here. I think it's more, right? Because it is the process of gaining the knowledge, skills, and confidence and resources needed to take control of one's life, making a positive change. Do you think that is what we are doing, or what we have been doing over the last couple of days?
Yes.
Yay! That's the right answer. I was going to say there is no wrong answer, but there was a wrong answer. I want all of you to walk away saying, you know what? I got this. And I don't have to have this on my own. And if that means I'm taking baby steps forward, let's do it, right? Sometimes you'll feel like running, and other times you will feel like that baby step. And that's okay too, because not everyone feels like running all the time. So we are gathering information. We're building that confidence, okay? Now we are going to go back into our workbook and scroll down past that page 12, I think it was. Oh, just kidding, 9. And we're going to go into page 10. And that one says building confidence. This activity I love, love, love. And I love it as an individual activity, and I love it as a group activity, or this is a fun one, even a family activity. Because I should have taken a picture of my bedroom wall, because I have a walk-in closet, and there's a paper similar to this one hanging behind me, and it says, I am. Okay. Now, I have all kinds of different words written up there saying, I am strong, I am kind, I am loving. Okay. Now, with I am statements, you guys, this is part of my morning practice. Like we talked about yesterday, your routine is your routine. It does not have to be morning, it does not have to be night. You make it look and feel what is good to you. Okay. So we're going to go over a little activity here. And in the chat, I'm going to want you guys to type one of these I am. Okay. Now, this is something currently that you may be and something that you want to embrace in the future. Okay. Now, this is where it can be fun when you get other people involved. When I was doing these one morning, and the 6-year-old tells me, Mom, I said, what else do you think we should add to this? And she read through my list and she said, I am bold and I am beautiful and I am me. Ooh, those real quick became a part of my I am statements. So, what is one I am statement that you would like to share with the group? And you can share it in the chat. I'm brave. Man, some days it takes, Nicole, it feels like it takes more to be brave, right? Than other days. I am courageous.
Yes,
So,
totally.
hello.
Hi.
Are you working today?
Yeah, I am. I'm editing some photos while I listen in.
Thank you for joining us. Now, if you guys don't know, I did a boudoir photo shoot with Nicole a few weeks ago. And I find it interesting that she put I am brave here because I did that specifically for me and no one else. And there was a time in my life that I never would have thought I would be putting lingerie on for just myself, and how good that made me feel, and that confidence and what being brave can do for you. So she has a special talent there. I love I am courageous as well, because sometimes we do have to have that courage to move on, right? Or as that quote said earlier, the courage to love ourselves. I am worthy. That's one of my favorites, Bethany, because how many of us do not feel worthy of an amazing relationship, having an amazing life, being able to do the things that bring you joy, right? So very true. All right. Now that we have started to use that to building some of our confidence, because when you start saying those every day, saying them or writing them, it will start to be ingrained in you. And guess what? You start to believe those things and you start to see them happening, especially if there's ones that you want to embrace that you may not have right now. All right. Now we are coming upon close to the end of our time together. So we're going to go through some goal setting. You guys, I'm going to do that one. It's going to be a little bit brief because we do take a deeper dive into that in the 90-day Path to Peace course. But if you go in your workbook over to page 11, it kind of gives you an overview of what we call SMART goals. Okay. Now, those SMART goals, when you are just coming out of, are you coming into, out of, whichever direction you're going, a separation or a divorce, the word goal in itself can be overwhelming, right? For sure. Now, if we look in our workbook, you guys will see, and this is my challenge to you, you guys don't have to make this some big crazy goal. Okay? When you are first starting to set goals for yourself, you can set smaller ones. Okay? You're going to make those goals specific. Was that a sneeze? Bless you. Smart, or they're smart. Okay? So specific. What is it that you specifically want to do? My favorite example of this is when I turn 50, I will be on a yacht in Croatia. I'm pretty sure that stemmed out of watching a TV show, but that's what I want to do. Okay, so is it specific? Yes. Is it measurable? Yes. Is it achievable? Yes, because I've already started doing the homework and seeing where I need to be able to do that. Relevant. Yes, because it's now. I'm preparing for that now. And as much as I hate to admit the time-bound part of it is so very true, because time keeps ticking, right? Or the saying, time waits for no one. How true is that? Right? So that is what a SMART goal looks like. If that is a little overwhelming and you're like, okay, so for me, that timeline is 4.5 years now. Now, if you're new to the goal setting side of things, let's start with what is something you would like to do in a month, and break that down using these 5 steps. And you will be surprised at how you can move through and accomplish those things as well. Okay. Now, let's go ahead and scroll down into page 13. This is the consistent steps portion of it. Okay, I put this in here so that you guys have a reference that you can be accountable to yourself. And if you want to take it a step further, you can be putting this in the group and saying, hey, this is what I'm doing. I need somebody to help me, or some people to help me stay accountable for that. Okay. Now, we started with the Wheel of Life, and then we're not ending this because this is kind of a continuing thing. But I put the Wheel of Life in here again because in another 30 days, come back and visit that original one that you did yesterday. Are you doing anything to make those move into a positive range? Did your 2 go at least to a 3? Did your 4 maybe go to a 5? Now, I do have something that I wanted to share with you guys right now, because I'm gonna go in here real quick. Starting on June 1st, we are going to start our first beta version of the 90-day Path to Peace. Okay, so not only will that encompass a deep dive into where we are at right now, but that is also going to include some more steps as well. Okay, so in the 90 days, you will see you get access to the full Path to Peace course. You guys, this is funny because sometimes I put my screen on the wrong side and I can't see what's going on. Okay. Now, when I say that, those are the emotional healing, the clarity, the confidence, and empowerment, in addition to all of the other things as well. Okay. Effective coping, rebuilding relationships. I'm not talking about a romantic relationship, because sometimes as we go through changes and growth in our lives, relationships around us change. Sometimes they're not what they used to be. Okay. And sometimes it's time to move on and move forward with or without those. Okay. Now, the other one is the implementation of the goal setting and action plan. And then the last part of that 90 days is my favorite part, life reinvention. You have a unique opportunity right where you sit, stand, wherever you are today, to create a life that may seem unreal to others and makes them wonder, how can she do all that? That's my favorite thing, is people to ask when they have no idea what I do outside of my corporate job right now. How does she do all of that? It's taken some focus and dedication and a lot of learning along the way, but everybody can do it. Okay. It just takes you coming alongside of other people to be able to do that. Okay. So the 90 days includes the course, a weekly check-in email, a weekly group coaching call. This is my favorite one because sometimes we just don't know what to do and we need a bailout. And that is a 15-minute bailout session, bringing that total value to $4,050, you guys. But because you have spent some of your valuable time investing in yourself, okay, as a member, the beta pricing is $197. Okay. Now, this will be changing in the near future because I will continue to add to this. And that is the beauty of being a beta member. I feel like a fish when I say that, a beta. That means you're feisty too, so that's not a bad thing. But you can do that of $197, okay? If that is something that you guys are interested in, you can let me know through the chat and I can get you all set up with that. But at this moment, I just want to tell you guys how much I appreciate that you have showed up for yourself. Okay. And sometimes that is the hardest step, is saying, okay, I'm going to do this. I'm going to move forward. Okay. So thank you for your time. If you guys have questions about anything, you can always reach me in the chat or in the group. And you can send an individual message as well. Thank you guys for taking care of yourselves and realizing that you can do this and you're not alone in it either. Okay. So I am going to get on the road, but much love, and I will be chatting with you guys soon. Thank you.
Safe travels. Thank you.
Thank you, Diana. Thank you, Nicole.
Katie. Safe travel.
Thank you, Bethany.
Bye.
Bye.